But in Kenya, they were able to create a product line under a global brand name, uh, partnering local companies and distributing it all within 14 days at the beginning of this pandemic. They created a hand sanitizer product which was not in the stable of Unilever globally under the brand name Lifebuoy. And it is doing substantially well from a brand perspective. It may not be doing financially well as yet, but for a brand, it has made a huge impact within 14 days. Now they were alive to the challenge. They understood the requirement and they reacted very well to it. They created local partnerships, and therefore they are going to hopefully see the benefits of it over a period of time. To me, that's a great example of that. And I don't think any uh, community or an audience segment will shun the brand because of that. Delphine has another question, which is about what strategies would work to grow a local business online while ensuring conversion. So um, I think the strategy has to be very simple. What is your product and who is it for? And if you're able to link the two dots, I mean, whether you are a global brand or a local brand, you would succeed. In my view, there are many examples of these, locally as well as globally. And I think it's an intersection of a, a whole amount of work, which is what is the brand and who is it for. And if you're able to answer that, then you should be able to drive that conversation, whether it's online or offline, and therefore also drive a product conversion as well. Ken is again asking us, as an addition to Delphine's question, which is a social marketing approach that is creating a brand to address social issues unlike direct communication. What is the line that defines companies' legitimacy and hypocrisy? Wow, it's too much English. Give me a second. So, Ken has asked us to explain or talk about the issue about what overlaps between legitimacy and hypocrisy. Okay, so let me ask you a reverse one, Ken. If if Safaricom became Vodafone, what would be our reaction as Kenyans? Our reaction would be that this is not Kenyan anymore. And if Vodafone remained green, would we accept it? Would it be hypocrite of Vodafone to use a nationalistic platform to play with our emotion? And would it also not be hypocrite of Vodafone to move away from their brand uh, color or brand ethos to try and remain market leader? I think the legitimacy comes from authenticity, and anything that is not authentic will push us to being a hypocrite. I think it's quite important that we remain authentic in our communication, um, in our behavior, in our tonality. And the more we are authentic, the more we will make an impact. And the more we are um, in platitudes, the more we'll be hypocrite, in my view. It was a good question, though, Ken. Good. Ovita is asking us, I am an avid reader of ad books, my favorite being the copybook, and of course, Ogilvy on advertising. And from the book Ogilvy on advertising, he used the term copy a lot. Do you think the word well, David Ogilvy, when he said copy, he did not mean copy in literal sense. He meant copy in understanding the consumer culture. and therefore being incisive and being so. Whether the world is disruptive or not, I don't think I'm in the position to state that whether it is disruptive. But for sure, it should, as an advertising practitioner, we should be able to influence consumer culture. And if we are able to do it, whether it means by disrupting it or by owning it or by being a part of it, I think we would have done our job. James Festus is asking us, last week Alemu mentioned importance of advertisers being in touch with the people on the ground and having their ears on the streets. How then do you ensure that the creative aspect doesn't lose touch with what the public requires, especially being at the top of the food chain as you are? James, thank you for telling us that we are at the top of the food chain. But I don't think we are. I think we are part of the food chain, and advertising and communication and marketing has traditionally, when I say traditionally, I mean intrinsically, they have to be really in touch with what's happening out there. If we are not part of what's happening out there, then we should not be in the business that we are in. And of course, much of advertising you see around you globally is clearly not part of that reality. They're living in or cocooned in their boardrooms or isolated in their offices. I think it's quite important that we pick up these behavioral changes that are happening around us fairly quickly, and react to those and be part of them, and therefore deliver a value to the brand as well as be true to the consumer. So it is important that we find ways and means to remain in touch with our audiences, and there are various ways and manners you can be. So I don't think anybody will be successful by not being part of that consumer culture. Moveen is asking us, do I have some favorite brands I'm using for years at my home? Maybe Gillette, Nike, etc. Yes, of course. I'm in love with Apple, irrespective of what people say, feel, believe. I'm in love with Bose. I'm in love with a lot of brands, but many of these brands have delivered. Not many, I would say all of the brands that I'm in love with, they have delivered a consistent value to me, both emotionally as well as functionally. And sometimes functionally is not equal to price. Functionally is also equal to an experience. So therefore, there are many such brands, including Gillette and Nike, by the way. So thank you, Moveen. Ken is asking me, as an expatriate leading the Sub-Sahara's advertising agency, what do I think has been the biggest edge in understanding the local market? Also, why do I think locals get it wrong in understanding the Kenyan advertising needs? So, Ken, I don't think that locals have got it wrong. Not at all. I think it's an evolution. In every market, there's an evolution of any industry. So we at ScanAd, we depend a lot on